thanks for joining. I hope you guys are enjoying API Summit so far. We've got a lot packed into 25 minutes. So we're going to talk a little bit about how you can trust what you ship with Insomnia. We'll dive into some security and flexibility features that really give you and your compliance teams a little bit of peace of mind. We're also going to debut some V12 Insomnia features, AI native features that are coming out soon, which some of you guys may or may not have seen if you stopped by our booth. We'll talk about developer experiences that scale and how, starting later this month, you guys can start easier and faster than ever with Insomnia. So with that, I'd like to paint a picture of what Insomnia is. So to give a little context, within the Kong ecosystem, we've got Insomnia, obviously, but we've got developers, and myself included, and organizations that are dealing with death by 1,000 tabs and death by 1,000 tools. And so they've got an API client over here, they've got an API gateway deployed over there, they might have documentation living elsewhere. And so what's really unique with Insomnia as an API client within the Kong ecosystem is that you can really start with Insomnia and then scale and grow further into Connect. And so you'll start by testing and building your APIs with Insomnia and debugging. You'll deploy and Connect, and then you'll manage and secure with other Kong infrastructure, monitor with real-time analytics, and then really collaborate in a joint workspace. So with that, I will hand it over to Cam to talk about who Insomnia is for.
Sounds good. So, I am plugged in. Cool. So, as Haley said, Insomnia helps you build and evolve your APIs no matter where they are in your life cycle. And part of that is that we think a lot about how to make Insomnia the right API client for any size team. For me, that means when you're first starting out, we don't feature gate anything. All of our core capabilities of test, design, debug, discover, mock, etc. are available unlimited on all of our plans. Then as you grow up and you need to invite your teammates and collaborate with them, you can use GitSync or Cloud or however it is that you easily want to share this work across your team. And like many of you, eventually it evolves to the point where you have teams of teams of teams of teams and probably 5 more layers after that. And that's where Insomnia Enterprise provides tools like SSO and SCIM, and we have clients managing thousands of developers and thousands of collections scattered across continents, where every single person has secure access to exactly what they need. So one of the other things that we believe very deeply at Insomnia and that we think differentiates us is it's ultimately your code, your data, your proprietary stuff, and you should be in control of it and where it goes. So there are 3 different ways that you can store projects in Insomnia. One of them is locally, entirely on your machine. One of them is with our Insomnia Cloud, end-to-end encrypted for maximum security and easy collaboration. Or you can use GitSync directly, where none of your proprietary code and data ever touches our servers, and therefore you can stay entirely within your security and compliance framework. And our enterprise customers even allow you, or on our enterprise plan, I should say, it's possible even to mandate which of those is possible within your organization, and therefore, again, enforce these security and compliance rules. Even the AI features that we'll show you later, you can run those entirely locally on your machine should you choose to. It was very important to us to build them in a way that, again, you're in control of your code and data, you're in control of where it goes, we're just here to help you build. And as Marco said this morning, 95% of AI initiatives fail. You know, everybody's out here vibing agents, man, or whatever it is we're doing. And that's super cool to see, and there's so much energy. But I think we're a little bit over our skis. And at Insomnia, we think a lot about how to give people the tools and infrastructure they need. We know how to solve these security and compliance and governance problems. We just need to be able to do it and build all this stuff in a sustainable way. Some of these are eternal problems, just like how you secure your data, which is something Vivek's going to talk about.
Yeah, so speaking of security and governance, I think Insomnia is probably not the only tool that you're deploying across your organization. You probably have a whole bunch of different tools. You have hundreds of people you're managing. And if you needed to add and remove people from each tool individually, that would be a lot of overhead, which is why we have support for things like SSO and SCIM, which allows you to just manage that in one place. And we'll make sure that users are provisioned and deprovisioned automatically as they get added and removed from the org or different teams or wherever it may be. We also have some invite controls. So if you want to, let's say, only allow people using a certain email domain to join your team, you can also set that up. Now at the individual level, even though everything I mentioned so far, that's like more governance concerns, but we also want to make sure that individual developers who are using the product also have the tools that they need in order to work in a secure manner. And that's where we have things like private environments. So if you know that your developers have credentials that only they're going to use, they don't want to be sharing that across the board, so they can put that in a private environment. Or if you have credentials you're using from a secure vault, like AWS Vault or something like that, you can directly connect that to Insomnia and pull credentials from there for your different workflows. And lastly, we do have end-to-end encryption. So if you used Insomnia, you might have seen a little pop-up saying enter your passphrase. That's because of the end-to-end encryption. And that way, when you do choose to send data to Insomnia's cloud or run data through that, you can still know that mathematically we can't look at it. Right? Now, we're not just focusing on features. So some of the things we're going to show today, some of them are features, others are enhancements to existing features. So for example, if you've been using Insomnia over the past few months, you might have noticed that GitSync looks and feels a little different. It feels a bit faster. We have a new three-way merge UI that you can actually do now. Earlier, you had to go to whichever version control system you were using. And v12 coming late in October, that's going to include some of the things I'm going to show you in probably like a minute. But yeah, I think the main takeaway is we're focusing on the actual experience that people have when they're using different features within Insomnia. And that's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, so one of the things about, excuse my voice, sorry, that we're focusing on is investing in the developer experience and really providing a delightful developer experience. And part of that is kind of helping out with the developer dilemma of what they were hired to do. So developers want to code. You hired them to code, and they're spending lots of time, maybe not lots of time doing the actual coding, but they're spending some time doing other mundane but necessary tasks, such as committing messages. And when they are spending time doing that, which they don't really want to do, they might become lazy in writing those commit messages and creating like vague commit messages, unclear, not writing them at all. And so that might end up losing context for debugging later on. And so the cost with that is going to be a governance problem. It takes a lot of time later on to sift through unclear, vague messages. You've got lost context, and so they're spending more time doing that as opposed to doing what you hired them to do, which is architecting solutions and building new features. And so they're spending more time doing that instead of more time debugging because they're sifting through those vague messages. So with Insomnia v12, we're introducing later on this month a smart commit with AI-powered commit messages where we'll logically group and organize it and suggest your commit messages, which your developers can either modify, they can accept, or they can choose to ignore. And with that, I'll let Vivek take over a demo.
Yeah. Wow, that's a great feature. I wish we could see it. Oh, wait, we could totally see it. So we're going to show you 3 demos here, see how fast I have to talk for that. All of the things we're going to show are in v12, which is shipping within October. So keep an eye on our blog, and we'll be making lots of noise about that as they come out in the next couple of weeks here. And I do also want to highlight, we're going to go quick because we want to show you lots of stuff. We have a booth downstairs. We'd love to nerd out with you about any of these things and how they can help you as well. So let's pretend that I'm a competent developer, so we'll have to pretend a lot. And I'm working on this design doc, and I've had a really productive morning building out my Insomnia Airlines, where I've got some flights and some airports and a whole bunch of stuff here. I've already turned it into a collection as well. And you know, I remember once upon a time I was an engineer. My favorite thing was put my headphones in, put my head down, and just go. And I'll worry about pesky things like comments later. And so in here, I built out the collection with my different endpoints. I added some docs in one of the endpoints so that I'll remember how to call this later. In the other endpoint, I think create, I have a script in there to do some testing, to save an environment variable of the ID that comes back so I can use it, etc. And then if I go back to the design doc, I also used one of my new shiny v12 features to generate a mock server right from this design doc as well. So I've been here kind of vibing my way through and just on a roll, and now I want to commit all of this to share it with my teammates. So I'll come down here and I'll look at commit, and I could see the 2 files and all the changes that I've made, and I don't want to comment all that. Why don't I click my button up in the top, and it will suggest things to me while leaving me in control. Now we do the traditional awkward AI pause. And so then in a second here, it generated, oh, that's funny this time. It suggested that these 2 files can be in the same commit. And you'll note it detected all those changes we talked about that I showed you and commented each one. So I don't have to think back through 2 hours of work. My focus can be on delivering value and having fun and building things for myself and my organization. And if I wanted to make changes in here, it's easy if there's a more complex thing to move files around, to edit this comment, etc. It's all suggestions. I'm still in control of the net experience, but I get to spend time on what matters to me. So that's our smart commit feature coming in v12, one of many things we're working on.
Yep.
So we're not just investing in features that make developers' lives a little easier, but we're also giving them the tools that they need. So in the agentic AI era, we're hearing MCP this, MCP that. We've heard of it in almost every single talk today. And so how do we ensure that these MCP servers are reliably working? And so you've created an MCP server in the AI gateway. How do you make sure that that's working reliably? How do you easily debug that, just like you would with your APIs before? Well, glad you asked. We have the MCP client that we're also rolling out in v12, which if you'd like to see it in more detail too, we can do it downstairs as well. But we've got a visual exploration available similar to how you would debug APIs, where you can connect to your MCP server by just plugging in the URL and explore the tools and resources and prompts available. And so you can trust your MCP servers just like you trust your APIs with Insomnia. And so we will show that as well.
Yep.
Who would have thought, eh? So for my first example here, we looked at building on the AI gateway conversations we had with 312 this morning. We took a REST API for Kong Air flights. Apparently, I really like airlines. And turned it into an MCP server using a Ben AI gateway. And so I can come over here just with the URL. This one's not authenticated, so it's easier. We just click Discover. And that gives me on the right a list of all the calls with the details down here that were made. And I can see that there are 3 tools available from this MCP server, each with its own parameters populated in the middle there. And if I want to call that last one and see what flights are planned, see if I get to go home or not, then I can see all of my airlines here, or all my flights here. So that's the simple example. And I think that's really powerful and will really help folks a lot. One of the things we hear from clients and prospects a lot is how painful it is to test OAuth and dynamic client reg and all the authentication bits of MCP servers, especially if you're building it up. So we're going to use Notion as an example because they have a pretty sophisticated OAuth thing with dynamic client registration. All Vivek is doing here is grabbing the URL and hitting Discover. And so then we'll go through the classic OAuth thing and say I'm okay with this and I'm okay with that. It's the internet, everybody trusts everybody. We're going to polish this before we ship it. We'll copy that and put it back here. So see it here. And that was it. And now I see all the tools I want down the left. And if I scroll, sorry, Vivek, I went backwards on you. My bad. And in the top right, you can see there was actually a huge handshake of different authentication calls back and forth to make sure that Notion and Insomnia are able to communicate. And you can see all the details of every one of those calls in Insomnia. So if I was building the server from scratch, I'd be able to see exactly where things went off the rails and exactly be able to tell what happened. And so, yeah. And then tools and prompts and resources on the left as before. So would love to show you more of that downstairs. And back to Haley.
And so we're giving you the tools that you need to move faster. And part of that is we've got another new feature that's rolling out with our mock servers. So your API dependencies don't stop your progress. And so you don't have to wait for your backend servers or backend engineers to finish building the backend for the front-end developers to do their work. And so with the new mock servers with natural language, you can generate a mock server to start testing those endpoints within seconds with just a few words and phrases to guide that. So with that...
It's weird how it's my turn to pin. Who
Yep.
would have thought? So I think mock servers are a super powerful way to unblock teams and let everybody work together on a feature, because the front end can be working while the back end is still building out the functionality. We don't have to all be blocked on each other. So in this case, I'm going to from a design-first approach, I think there's a real opportunity here, where I just want to, again, with my airline, I want to build out a mobile app. I want to put my team thinking about what are the contracts and the endpoints we need to share. What is the information we need to share so that this app will be able to succeed? I'm literally going to pivot one sentence of context to start here. I'm going to point it to my machine, and we'll give it a second here to run. And then I could also see I could start from a spec or from a URL, as we see in a second. But when this opens, this is a video, because it does take about 1.5 minutes when you ask it to do 20 things at once. So I didn't want y'all to have to sit through that. But you can see from one sentence of text, I got a explanation, or I got 20 endpoints that it thought were reasonable, and it's fully fleshed out endpoints that I could use to have that conversation with my team of what do I need in this app, how does it work, etc. So tons of power there from a design side, where again, we can do all of that before any of this code actually exists. And then once we align, my front end can be building the app, while the back end builds the APIs that power it. So everybody gets to move together faster than ever. The other benefit I see for maybe an internal workflow or for testing or something like that, I don't know if you guys have heard, there's lots of APIs that are a pain in the butt to work with. They're hard to set up on your laptop, or they're difficult to authenticate against, or they're metered and you just don't want to deal with it. So in this case, I'm going to bring in an endpoint from Stripe, because I don't want to be making a mess in my Stripe sandbox every single time. And so I'll just say, hey, can you make me a mock that looks like this? And I don't really want to think about it, just make it for me. And it does. And so again, I can spend my time on what matters, and I have easy ways to interact with very complex APIs without having to set up everything on my machine every time I need any little situation. So I'm really excited for how much more approachable and discoverable and powerful this makes mock servers.
All right, and so we're also, all of these features that you've seen so far, those are going to be available later this month in V12 for any of the plans. But we're also making it easier for you guys to get started and start collaborating how you want to work from day one with Insomnia. So you can start for free with the Essentials plan, formerly known as the Hobby plan. And with that, you'll get unlimited projects with GitSync for free. And then, like we mentioned earlier, as you scale, Insomnia can scale with you. And so if you're outgrowing your current setup and you need that governance, the RBAC, SSO, SCIM provisioning, if you need more than the essentials, then we're making it even easier for you guys to jump to the next levels as well. And so if you would like to try out those more governance features and security, we're also introducing a free 14-day trial, which will be available at some point later this October. And we're also making it easier for you to self-serve up to 50 seats. And so if you'd like to get started, that will be available soon. And if you have, did we miss anything? If you have any questions or would like to see any other MCP client demos or any other demos, we'll be downstairs near the food section. Is that it? I think that's
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
it. All right.